All right, let's talk about that. The South African Weather Service has issued several alerts, and also there's a reported snow on the southern Drakensberg. The snowfall comes as temperatures plummeted to as low as 0 degrees in parts of KwaZulu-Natal overnight. And then, of course, we're looking at the cold weather in different parts of the country. We're joined by a Professor of Climatology at Wits Global Change Institute. That's Professor Francois Engelbrecht. Professor, thank you for being with us. It seems particularly cold, but is that just because we forget the travails, perhaps, of previous winters?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Yes, that's quite correct. It's winter time now in South Africa. This winter so far is one of the coldest and wettest winters we've experienced in a very long time, though. More or less the coldest and wettest winter thus far in about 10 years. So indeed it is the case that in a changing climate, our winters have been getting systematically warmer. If we look at the statistics, winter temperatures have definitely been rising, but so in the same way, the number of days with frost, so the very cold days, have statistically been decreasing substantially over the last 3 decades or so. So yes, I think as South Africans, we are systematically becoming less used to these cool winters, but they are supposed to be a normal part of our climatology here in South Africa.
So you say we haven't seen this cold for 10 years. Any reasoning? I mean, when the snow hit Johannesburg, some people immediately said, well, this is so unusual. Of course, it's climate change. But other experts were saying, no, these things will happen periodically.
Yes, the climate system is variable. So in South Africa, because of natural variability, we are supposed to get these cold winters every few years or so. But because of climate change, the cold fronts that are causing the cold winters and are so important for our winter rainfall in Cape Town, these types of weather systems are in fact occurring less and less frequently over the South African interior. And it's for this reason that we've been losing our winter rainfall. We've systematically been losing winter rainfall over the last 3 decades because of global warming, systematically shifting the cold fronts towards Antarctica. And for that same reason, winters are becoming warmer. So this is actually a winter, this type of winter we should actually expect to occur less frequently in a changing climate. And that is bad news for us in terms of our water security in Cape Town and then eastwards along the Garden Route into the Eastern Cape.
All right, that is fascinating. Just explain what is happening right now. What is a cold front? We hear of high pressure systems. It always seems to move from Cape Town to Johannesburg. We always get it after them. Just tell us what forces are at play right now.
Sure. Most cold fronts only affect the most southern parts of South Africa. So usually when they get a cold front, it brings a bit of rainfall to the southwestern Cape, and then sometimes eastwards along the Garden Route and into the Eastern Cape. But a minority of cold fronts manage to move further to the north into the interior. And technically it means that there's the cyclones on the Southern Ocean, we call it the mid-latitude cyclone, and behind it there's a big high pressure system that moves in, and that helps to bring the cold air deep into the interior. So in a typical winter, we only have a handful of these systems occurring. This winter, they are more common than they've been compared to their statistics for the last 20 years. And what happened in this case is that the cold front moved through from the west to the east over South Africa with a big high pressure system behind it, helping to transport a lot of cold air from the Southern Ocean far to the north into South Africa. And then at the same time, we had a so-called cut-off low pressure system that many viewers will know about over the interior. That's exactly the same type of weather system that caused the snowfall in Johannesburg about a week ago. So exactly the same type of weather system. This one is less intense. Its position is somewhat different. So the snowfall in this case will be largely confined to the area over and around the city.
All right, so is that a relief? I mean, so let's just look at this weekend. The Weather Service issuing an alert level 1 for damaging winds in the Eastern Cape. And then we were talking about KwaZulu-Natal and snow there, but mostly on the mountains. And you say somewhat contained. Is that good news for KwaZulu-Natal? Because that province seems to be particularly vulnerable. We've seen flooding after flooding, and it just seems to be very hard hit in recent months.
Yes, KwaZulu-Natal, due to its proximity to the Indian Ocean, is probably our most vulnerable province when it comes to extreme rainfall events and flooding. So what happened in April 2022 remains an absolute tragedy that we need to learn from in South Africa. More than 540 people died in the floods of April 2022. That was caused by another of these cut-off low pressure systems that occurred over KwaZulu-Natal during that event. So in a changing climate, it is that warm ocean that brings the risk, because above a warmer and warmer ocean in a warmer regional climate system, there's more evaporation, which means that there's more moisture available to fuel the storms that occur over the KwaZulu-Natal province. Now, this is largely a risk for summertime, but these cut-off low pressure systems can also from time to time cause flooding in our southern provinces, really any time of the year. The Western Cape, the Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, whenever we hear of flood occurrences, it's almost always because of a cut-off low pressure system that has formed. But in a warmer climate system, they are quite capable of causing more rainfall than in the past.
Thank you. This has been fascinating, and of course that raises the urgency to fix those low-level bridges, the infrastructural problems in KwaZulu-Natal, like you say, getting ready for a future where this will just intensify. Professor of Climatology at Wits Global Change Institute, Professor Francois Engelbrecht.